All right, so today we have a Bronze 3 Ashe. Now, if you want coaching yourself, feel free to join the Discord, as well as make sure to like and subscribe. Okay. I do really like the off angle that you took there, because you're going to gain way more value. Oop. You're going to gain way more value than just sitting right here, because guess who else is also on that angle? Everyone on your team. And if everyone on your team is looking at the same angle, the enemy team, all they have to do is look right here. But now that you added a little bit of like diversity to your team, added a little bit of an off angle, that's going to create an extreme amount of pressure. And creating that extreme amount of pressure is, I mean, guess what happened? The Alari died, and the Mercy is going to go for a res. And unfortunately, she didn't die. Right there, though, if you see a Mercy going for a res like that, as soon as you killed that Alari too, that probably would have been a good opportunity to throw dynamite. But if you can aim in, look for like a headshot on the Mercy right there, you probably would have been able to kill her. But instead, you're like kind of just aiming for body shots and just shooting her just because she was existing there. If you would have aimed for like at least one headshot and then the rest body shots, you would have been able to kill her 100%. As well as there is a trick where you can aim in with Ashe's gun, shoot once, aim out, shoot twice, and then aim in, shoot once, aim out, shoot twice, aim in, shoot once, aim out, shoot twice. Kind of like hip fire twice, aim in, then shoot. You understand what I'm saying? Another kill on the Alari. But for example, right here would have been the perfect opportunity to just aim in, shoot twice at the Ramatra right there, aim out, shoot twice at the Ramatra if you're trying to get the kill on the Ramatra right here as soon as possible, or if you're trying to get an extreme amount of damage out. Now, dynamite probably wasn't the best option, just on the Ramatra alone. It's good that you rotated out, because a better Genji is probably going to get you killed since you're in that room. So the second you got that kill on the Alari too, you probably could have easily walked up. Maybe even walked up here and just jumped up on this high ground right here and tried to like get any sort of kill that you possibly can. Add some pressure, maybe go for the Mercy right here. The Mercy would probably be your best option, because if you kill the Mercy right here, they can't really do anything at all at that point, because their Alari's all the way back there, and then they wouldn't have any supports. The only thing that you'd have to worry about when taking this high ground right here is basically just the Genji diving you. And then in a bit, it would be the Junkrat as well, because the Junkrat is just coming in. But if you kind of would have walked up, taken this high ground right here, maybe added a lot of pressure. Let's say Genji dove you, so always be on guard. Just jump down, drop right around here. Your supports are going to notice you, hopefully, and you'll be fine. But since you didn't really react on that, and you kind of stayed in this room for a bit longer than you should have, guess what happened? The Genji dove you, pushed you out, and now you have to rotate all the way around, or you can try to contest him. And that gives these guys a lot less pressure. And now that these guys have a lot less pressure, they're going to be able to hold this as much as they want. And that's going to be a massive issue, because they're the ones that are creating pressure on your tank now. And your supports, because your supports can't really do any damage right now. I don't think they're really going to, but good supports can't really do any damage because they really got a hard focus on their tank right now, because their tank is in a 1v1, basically 1v4 situation. So just by single-handedly or just by like simply not walking up a little bit and playing aggro and being able to take this high ground like as soon as you possibly could, it forced everyone to put their foot back down and keep playing aggressive. You need to capitalize on taking advantage of those picks that you got. Like that Alari pick right there, you picked her off twice. That's massive. Now, if you could maybe shoot at the Genji, let's say for example the Genji was like playing really aggressive, or like you can see that he's probably like a free kill, or you can force him to like use any cooldowns or anything like that. If he uses that reflect, he's free. That Genji is the instantly like the most free player. Okay. So now you're looking a little lost. So this is something that I always try to teach as much as possible is value, value, value. You have to be looking for value every second you're playing this game. You got to be constantly doing something, because look how long it took you to re-engage into a fight. So you walked all the way back here, and then you walked all the way over here, didn't really shoot a whole lot, and then you walked all the way all the way over here, and guess what happened? Well, this is what happened. Your brig died. And that's because they have zero pressure. They have zero, like, they just don't have to worry at all. And they have free reign. So you got to pay attention to, like, constantly looking for value. If you're going to take an off angle, you got to take that as quick as possible. Like, you should be thinking, like, super fast. You need to think fast. You need to react fast. And you need to get to a certain spot as fast as you possibly can so you can add pressure. Because the only time that your team really was able to kind of push up all the way up to this choke point and kind of almost walk past it was because you took that off angle. You got pressure. You got to pick on one of their supports. And I mean, you just were absolutely steamrolling. Maybe wait a little bit longer on that dynamite. You don't need to shoot it right off from the bat, but that's not a bad dynamite. Used it pretty well right there. Just could have waited a little bit longer to add a little bit more pressure. Okay. I do like the fact that you are targeting, let's say, like squishies rather than the tank. But you can also shoot the tank a few times as well. Nice job. This would be a good opportunity to target the tank. Nice. Good job. Because in that situation right there, he's actually killable. And when someone's killable like that, then you can target that player because it doesn't matter who it is. Okay. Nice. As well as, if you don't really understand exactly what I mean by like the aim in, aim out, shoot twice, and then aim in, go ahead and watch, like, just search up Ashe combo or something like that on YouTube and watch like a YouTube short on it. It's a very simple combo, and it'll change your way on how you play Ashe, because you're able to get picks a lot faster with that combo. That's right, you can sit on there. Okay, so you're way too focused on the sound cue, and that's like a big responsibility for you to get rid of that. Thankfully, you had a brig there, and thankfully the Junkrat didn't realize that brig can hold up shield, and then his ult will become useless. But the second you hear a Junkrat ult like that, you got to aim in, and you can't be scared of it. You got to play aggro on it. Now, I'm not saying run full send at it, but you got to, like, the second you see that, you have to shoot that thing. Because if not, it's going to kill someone in the future. Fortunately, it wasn't able to kill anybody. But once again, you get into gold, players are probably going to be slightly more smart, and they're definitely going to get kills with it. Because they're not going to walk straight at a brig, and then they're going to explode at a brig shield or something like that. No, they're going to go around the brig shield, they're going to go for the Kiri, they're gonna fake out the Kiri's cleanse, and then they're gonna blow up. Once again, right here, look for an off angle. That cart, I mean, it does suck that the rest of your team isn't really on that cart right there. You can ping cart, try to like get your team to notify it that you should be, or that they should be on cart, and go look for an off angle. Go look for a way to start steamrolling even further. You see, like, they're on cart right now. Look how far back you are. You're widow distance. you need to be Ashe distance. So, for example, I mean, you could even rotate, like, maybe, let's say, right over here. Maybe you could even jump up here. Not really going to get an extreme good view. But earlier, though, you probably could have even rotated. I wouldn't actually say rotate over there, just because the whole enemy team is in there, and they probably could catch you off guard. But you could have even rotated, like, right over here. Maybe boosted yourself up, like, right over here. And just walked right over here. You could have taken this high ground right here. I mean, you could have added a lot more pressure into that ground right over here. You could have walked off over on to the bridge that the Ramantra's on right now. Look for any value, look for any damage. And you're going to get a lot more picks doing that. Unfortunately, you're kind of just sitting on the cart. You're not really doing a whole lot. Not really the best opportunity to use Bob right there. Using Bob right there was very early. And what probably would have been better is if you would have waited just like right across from here. Probably would have been best is if you would have maybe taken a flank right over here, maybe rotated over here real quick, and then throw down Bob just like right here on this doorway right here, because then he has kind of an angle right over there, and he has an angle right here. I mean, you could even throw Bob like right over here, but I would wait until payload gets a little bit more closer and that nobody's in danger. For example, like if you think somebody on your team's going to die, then I would throw Bob early. But just so they can't get that retouch, you could wait a little bit longer to throw down your Bob as well. But yeah, when it comes to Bob, you got to look for every opportunity that you can. That's going to be... Oops, sorry about that. That's going to be game changing. So, for example, even throwing your Bob right here would have been really good because that solos off both supports, and both supports could die. You got to find like a spot for Bob where he's going to actually be able to get kills, because Bob can't walk around after he hits a wall or something like that. He's stuck there. So you got to find out like exactly where you can throw Bob to where if he stays there, he's going to add an extreme amount of pressure, and he's going to add an extreme amount of damage, and he's going to get picks, and he's going to add extreme amounts of pressure, basically. Yeah. So you have to be focusing on that as well. For example, like right here, this high ground right here would have been huge. Now, if you would have been able to take this high ground just a little bit more sooner, guess what? You got a whole angle right here when all the players right over there. You got a whole angle right here to get free kills on anybody that you want. And let's say, for example, Genji dives you. All you got to do is use your boomstick, drop back down. As well as right here. Very good opportunity, like a golden opportunity to use your boomstick to boom yourself away from that, because now you're going to get hit by that. And if you take too much damage, you could die. But if you would have used that boomstick just a tiny bit sooner, you might not have been able to get hit by it. For example, you're stalling again, once again, you're kind of stalling a little bit too long. The second, like, you think that you're safe and that you can keep engaging on that, you have to engage on that. You have to be the one that's creating a lot of pressure. Because, for example, let's say, like, in this rank, you have to feel like the enemy team is getting really mad and you're the reason why the enemy team is struggling. But so far in this game, the enemy team hasn't really struggled against you because you haven't really been there to do a whole lot. And I can guarantee you, if you were just like simply just like maybe looking for a little bit more value, like just constantly shooting, not only shooting the tank, but like just constantly shooting, constantly looking for those dynamites. And the reason why you haven't really been able to use your dynamite too much is because you haven't really been able to peek them too much. So you need, or that you haven't really been peeking them too much. So you really need to find that angle, for example. Look for any damage, look for anything. Unfortunately, I mean, actually not bad. So it would have been better if you probably would have tried to get up on this high ground right here, because then maybe you could walk around here for a second, look for any extra damage right there, and then maybe rotate around. Or what could also work is you just walk right under here and then walk right up here. But the reason why it's kind of a little bit risky to do that is just because of Genji. Genji gets you in a room by himself. I mean, you're just a free kill. So this is what I'm talking about with or this is, I haven't actually explained this yet, but kind of taking an off angle right here. You saw how, like I said, you can take an off angle right here and then you got to rotate out fast, because the longer that you're right here, the sooner somebody's going to react on it. So for example, you kind of sat here for a couple seconds, you try to get a pick, maybe try to get one pick or something like that, and then like if you just can't do it, and you know that the enemy team is kind of backing up a little bit like they are right now, then just rotate over here and then start shooting them from there. Oh my. Okay, so you had a mega right here. I just can't believe how many shots that Matra missed, as well as you panic boomstick back. So what's the best option is you can just simply walk back right over here, boomstick yourself, make sure you jump first, and then you might be able to get right up on this high ground right here. Let's say if he keeps chasing you, just walk up on this high ground right here, maybe drop down, grab mega. But the longer he chases you, the longer he's going to be at the fight, and I would trade a DPS for a tank any day of the week. But unfortunately, you kind of panic boomstick back, and even if you would have boomsticked over here, he would have been able to close that gap easy, and he still would have been able to get damage out on you. As well as you tried to drop down here and then rotate out there. There is a mega right here.
I feel all warm inside.
I'm not ready
All right, speed up.
Let the Kitsune guide you.
Yeah. Not really a good use. Now, you can boomstick yourself right over here, maybe see if you can get like a cheeky pick, but this is like one of those angles once again where you can only peek it for like a few seconds at the maximum, and then you got to drop because they're going to all look at you and then you're going to die instantly. Once again, Genji's using his cooldowns. A little bit of an aim issue right there. No worries though.
She's gonna blow. Let's put the payload together.
Not really a whole lot to say except kind of shooting the tank a lot right there, and thankfully your soldier was able to make a play. But once again, the only two people that have been making a play is your hog, and then finally now your soldier is starting to make a few plays as well, because your hog is enabling your soldier a lot. And the only reason why he's really able to enable your soldier so much is because the Ramatra has only been targeting the hog. So how do you let me kind of think. So how can you rank up? How can you get into gold so you can play with your friends or your friend? First off, look for a lot more value. Second off, you have to be making plays. You're the one that has to change this game around. You're the one that has to be the biggest issue. But so far, you haven't really been much of an issue besides for the very beginning, when you got that double pick on the Alari. But then once again, you backed out of the fight. You got scared. And guess what happened? They were able to sit there for a lot longer, even though they were down. They were down 2 players at one point. Okay, you're trying to take an off angle. Very risky off angle. And on top of that, by you taking that off angle, it allowed everybody to walk up. The reason why I wouldn't take this off angle at all is in order to actually get a full view, you got to walk right up here. And then at this point, you're in their back line and you got a Genji in a Junkrat. So what's the Genji and the Junkrat going to do? Especially if the Junkrat sees you in a like small hallway like this, he's just gonna shoot at you exactly like he's doing right there. And that's going to be dangerous. Thankfully, he walks out because he got low. Yeah. I wouldn't really recommend sitting there.
Out of my space.
Well, you made a play. Not bad. But once again, I wouldn't recommend sitting in this hallway right here. Extremely dangerous in higher ranks or in a higher rank. You're going to die before you can get your ult off, and it's going to be all for nothing. So you did make a play right there, and that play was good. It was kind of clean. But once again, in a higher rank, they're not going to let you make that play if you take this angle.
The payload is approaching its destination.
You cannot escape me.
Okay. Also, don't be afraid to hip fire too. Never be afraid to hip fire, because in that close range right there, you're kind of trying to aim in still on that Genji. You could have easily hip fired him there, and you probably would have been a little bit more accurate. All right. What's going on? Something's happening. Okay.
Ready.
Okay.
Ready for battle.
Oh. Okay. Let's kind of talk about where you're positioned. I hope you don't stay here. Oh my. Okay, never mind. Let's talk about you. I wouldn't recommend sitting on the low ground in this room right here. Especially since, I mean, they have a hog, they have a Junkrat. Especially if a Junkrat just shoots in here. Both you and Brig are probably going to die if the Junkrat plays his cape. Good enough. Let's say, for example, Moira sees you. She's going to throw damage orb in there, and you're just going to get absolutely destroyed. Now, what would be a better spot? High ground right here. Look for a little bit of value. Let's say they force you off the high ground. And you can rotate maybe like right around here. Just use that choke point for a second. Look for any extra value or anything like that. You also got like a little bit of a cheeky angle that you can peek from like right over here. Maybe get a few shots off that way. If you're not really getting a whole lot of value, you can even play like right over here. Let's say, for example, they're getting a little bit too close and they're starting to push up a little bit too far. Just rotate over to here and then maybe try to rotate over there. Unless you want to try, very risky, but if you want to try it, you can rotate yourself all the way to here. But that's kind of a little bit out, like too out in the open. And you want to always be playing cover.
Defend objective A.
Yeah, this scares me a lot. Nice pick. Nice pick, though. Like, that's not bad. It's actually really good. And thankfully, the enemy team doesn't really know how to capitalize on that. And it worked out. But once again, in a higher rank, that's not going to work. You're going to get absolutely, like, attacked. Just like that. So, there's also a thing on the reason why a lot of players will often play, like, point on a lot of these, like, hybrid / control maps. There's a reason why a lot of players will even play, like, all the way back here and kind of just sit, like, back here. And that's because it takes the enemy team a lot longer to respawn. And on top of that, kind of, like, map-wise, there's also a reason. But a part of the reason is it takes the enemy team a lot longer to respawn, and it punishes them for, like, someone dying. But if you're kind of, like, holding up right in this range right here, look how far they have to walk back from spawn compared to you. They have to walk all the way back, or they have to walk, they spawn right here, and they walk back here, let's say they just walk here, they're already back in the fight. But let's say your team has to run a 5K all the way just to get back. So they have to go all the way over here to all the way over here, past this building, and then all the way over here, and then over here, and then over here, and then they're in the fight. But if you kind of play like a little bit more further back, it kind of closes that distance a little bit, and you have a player on your team that can kind of get back.
Right into the sunset.
I like the weapon inspect.
Let the kitsune guide you.
Okay. Big thing that you need to do right now is get out of this room. You could walk right over here, and I'm telling you right up, straight up, you walk right here, you're killing that Mercy. You might even be able to walk around here, kill that Moira. Let's say, for example, let's say the Junkrat dives you. You could make a play right here. You could make a massive play if you just walk behind him. Now, it might be a little bit more dangerous. You might have to react or play a lot more safer when you hit like a little bit higher of a rank. But right now, it's just my main goal is to get you ready to at least rank up into, like, let's say platinum. Perfect. Dynamite. Dynamite right here. Massive opportunity. So we'll actually wait until this fight ends. Once again, focus on the hog right there. Okay. So you finally took that angle in the backside, and guess what happened? A lot of people died. And guess what happened? You won the team fight. That's exactly what I thought was going to happen. That's exactly what you did. And guess what happened? It worked. Now, it wasn't like executed 100%, but it still worked. So, for example, instead of like walking right out this doorway right here and getting like killed within 2 seconds, you walked all the way around here. You helped kill the Junkrat, and then you built an off angle on both supports, and you started attacking both supports right there. And guess what happened? Both supports died. Then Hog dies because Hog has no heals. And now you walk up for free and you recap. Nice headshot. So this would have been a really good opportunity to use your boomstick and boop yourself to the side. So now you're in your LOS of that Cassidy right there. And then you can shoot that Cassidy one more time. But instead, you kind of slowly peeked him. And by the time you slowly peek him, he's going to get out. You see? But if you would have hit that headshot right there and he walks back, the second you saw him walk off to that side, he has no cover. So you got to use your boomstick instantly. Make him, like, force him in your LOS, finish him off and kill him.
Remember who's in charge.
Because, I mean, you could have been the person that made a massive play right there. Okay. Just hide behind a wall. Just chill behind a wall right here. As well as make sure you do have the comm asking for healing, especially if you're solo queuing and you don't really have any like friends who are on support or anything like that. If you're currently solo queuing, you don't want to kind of sit back and just wait for your allies to heal you. Sometimes supports need to know when, like, who they need to heal, so you can ask for healing and then they'll turn to you real quick, heal you. But instead, you kind of walked back, and guess what happened when you walked back? Your Hog died. You can notice a lot of times when you kind of walk out of the fight, your team gets absolutely steamrolled. But the second, like, you're in the fight and you're kind of sitting here and you're kind of doing stuff and everything like that, your team's the one that's steamrolling. Your team's the one that that's just walking right through them. For example, when you walked right around over here, you walked right over here, your team started absolutely smoking them because you're constantly looking for that value. But when you walked back, guess who's going to be walking forward? The whole entire enemy team.
I'm with you.
Fire in the hole! Bob, do something!
Okay, let's talk about Bob right there as well. So you know that the hog is dead. Your hog. So guess where the enemy team's probably going to walk to? The answer is point. And that's exactly what they did. And now your Bob is pretty useless. So what's the best opportunity to use Bob right here? Your hog's dead. So the enemy team's going to walk forward. So if you were to throw, let's say, Bob like right over here, or maybe even you could throw him like, let's say like right here would have been a good spot as well, because then that would have forced them to either play extremely up close and out of like a little bit of a comfort zone, out of cover, or you can force them just to kind of, you can try to back them up as much as possible, maybe stall just for your hog to get back. Unfortunate. Once again, Junkrat trap, you have to look for that and you have to get rid of that as soon as you possibly can. So right there, that was an opportunity to make a big, massive play. Was by throwing Bob there, on point, or in that other spot that I told you. That could have made a massive play.
Objective lost. Stop the payload.
Payload's on the move.
See, you throw dynamite right there, which is not bad, because at least you're throwing it. But once again, you're hitting the tank. That's not going to affect the tank too much. Especially a hog who's just able to kind of heal himself back up really quick. You got to look for that shot, like on that dynamite. Like, for example, right here. That would be a golden opportunity. You got to find the supports with it. You got to find maybe a DPS that's going to take a lot of damage by it. You have to be looking for anybody who's going to be able to be killable, anybody who's going to be forced back or anything like that. And if you can do that single-handedly, like, okay, so let's kind of like say this as well. Single-handedly you can carry, but when you get into a match, your next match, focus on constantly, like, solely focus on your dynamites. Like, now, I'm not saying don't shoot your gun at all and only hide and then throw down your dynamites. No, focus on your dynamite cooldown. The second that cooldown's gone, you need to look for a dynamite ASAP. Because you did say, and you're self-aware on, like, that you're not using your dynamites too much. You typed it down in the comment of, like, the code that you sent me, that you know that you're not using your dynamites enough. And the best way to get used to something that you're not used to and to get in the habit of using it is by paying attention to it as much as you can. Even if it costs you, like, let's say a few matches or anything like that, you don't really have a whole lot to lose, because after it costs you, like, let's say one match, if like if you're too focused on your dynamite or something like that, you're going to get in that rhythm and you're going to rank up. Because right now you really got nothing to lose. So you can start trying things. You can start playing a little bit more aggressive. You gotta get out of your comfort zone a lot, because right now you're playing like a little too scared. You're trying to go like on off angles, and I do like the fact that you're going on off angles. I really do like the fact that you're taking those off angles, but it's taking you too long to get those off angles sometimes. And when you do that, guess what happens? Your team dies. So you got to be constantly looking for value. You got to constantly look for any damage that you constantly can. Value, value, value. That's something that I taught so much. You gotta constantly be looking to do something. You gotta constantly be shooting. You gotta constantly be adding pressure, because if you're not adding pressure, guess who's adding pressure? The enemy team. And then it's gonna make it harder for you to add pressure back, because they're already adding a lot of pressure. Nice. For example, right here. Perfect opportunity to throw your dynamite right over here. Add a lot of pressure. But once again, oh, perfect. Awesome, amazing. Once again, remember, there is that mega right there, or you can even rotate back right over here for your supports, because your support is coming to you right now. you have to remember that you do have supports that you want to stay in the LOS of. So, for example, you can blame your supports if you die, but were you in a spot to where your supports could heal you? A lot of people don't realize that, and that happens even in Masters rank. A lot of people start blaming their supports, and guess what? They are the problem. They were out of position from their supports. Their supports didn't have a LOS. They're taking way too long, or they overextended, or they underextended, or something like that. So, where you position, you got to kind of have like an idea where your supports are going to be. Just in case you get low in that situation, you can kind of walk. Once again, right there, you shoot that Moira a few times. You saw that she was one tap. You throw your dynamite, you insta kill her, and you could chill here. But once again, Mercy's coming back. Unfortunately, because of that res, you got to get out. Because that Moira, she is going to get you. She has her eyes focused on you now. She wants her revenge. Oh. There's no way. There's no way. You can't make this up. Okay. She wanted her revenge, but wasn't able to get it.
Thank you.
That was interesting.
She's gonna blow.
Okay. Once again, really good spot that you're in. Unfortunately, you missed your shots right there. The second you get that dynamite, you got to throw that dynamite down.
Tactical visor activated.
Nice. Perfect. Although you got knocked off the high ground. You and the rest of your team kind of has an off angle, so you got a lot of pressure, and they're going to ignore that you exist right now. But you won it. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. Nice. Let's get right there. That's what you got to do. Sometimes you just got to hip fire. You don't only have to scope in the whole time. You can aim in and then maybe aim out twice, shoot. You can finish off a player pretty quick by doing that. Now you have your bob, so you have to stall on your bob a little bit. You have to wait until that final fight to throw down bob. Now, let's say, for example, if like okay, so let's say, for example, if someone on your team dies, unfortunately, it's going to be you. But let's say if someone on your team dies, then you might want to try to like look for a bob, look for somewhere to throw a bob to release some of that pressure, just until that player is able to get back.
60 seconds.
Maybe you live. Once again, you heard the Junkrat trap go off. Look for it. Look for it and kill it. That's something that so many players, even in, like, I'd even say in Diamond, so many players just don't take enough advantage of. Unfortunately, this is the reason why I was like kind of scared for for Bob to be thrown, because now they have one last fight, and you guys are down every single one of your ults now. And unfortunately, that could be bad. Now, thankfully, the Hog walked up on the Junkrat right there and made a play, as well as the enemy Hog kind of was trying to make a play. So, fortunately, they both didn't purposefully die, and they weren't able to get one last touch. You guys are so lucky that they are not going to be able to touch point. Wait, are they? Clutch boop by the brig. You guys are so lucky, and that's definitely not a way you want to end a game. For example, did you have your boomstick actually? I wasn't paying attention to that. Let's speed up right here. Okay, so you didn't have it, but what can you do? I think that's a little too risky. Just walk back. Maybe even just like, I mean, you could even walk forward right here and just hide right here, and you would have been fine. Which you had the right idea, but you walked a little bit too far and then fell off the map. But that's all right though. It happens. I mean, look at look at the Moira on the enemy team. It happens. All right. So what's everything that you need to work on? You need to look for damage constantly. You need to be looking for as much damage as possible. You need to be looking for any value that you can get. Any second that you can get extra damage, get that extra damage. You're going to build your ult faster. You're going to add so much pressure, and it's going to make it so hard for the enemy team to do anything. As well as positioning. I mean, your off angles, I love the fact that you're actually taking those off angles, because a lot of players, especially in your rank, 100% of, I'd say 99% of players in your rank don't do that. So the fact that you're doing that is really good, and that's a good habit for later. But you need to take them faster. You need to be taking shorter off angles. You need to be taking them way faster, and sometimes you need to be taking them, like in certain cases, a lot more, so you can add a lot more pressure. You need to have a lot more awareness on what the enemy team's doing and where the enemy team is, because there's quite a bit of opportunities where like you've been able to get a free kill. For example, if the Mercy is the first person to die and then you pick everybody else off, the Mercy's probably gonna be the first person to respawn, and they're gonna be the first person to, and she's probably gonna be looking for a res. So you can take advantage of that. It's all just stuff that you kind of have to learn on your own as well, and you'll get into the habit of it. Just play it more, and you'll start to understand like, oh hey, this and that and that and this, as well as alt tracking. You need to pay attention to like what enemy hasn't used alt, what enemy has used alt. So basically, what enemy more than likely has alt, and what alt can you or your team do to defend against it, or like maybe you can prepare yourself for an alt. For example, let's say like if Hog has alt and everybody's in that corner right there, maybe you can position yourself a little bit away, like a little bit more safer, because you know that enemy Hog has alt. So what is alt tracking? Just having an idea who has alt, having an idea like who might have alt, what percent they're at, or anything like that. Because you can see in my games a lot. If you ever do see any of like my gameplay, I'm constantly looking at who has alt. I'll straight up like read off like I'd probably say like Junkrat maybe has like 40 to 50% alt. I know Free or Cassidy is very close to alt, or he might even have alt. I know for a fact Moira has alt, and I know for a fact Hog has alt. But I can say that without even knowing. It's just, it takes time and it takes practice to realize that. And it's not going to be something that you can do straight off from the bat. But if you try to start like tracking that, sooner or later it'll just come naturally to you. You'll realize, oh shoot, he hasn't used alt in maybe like 20 seconds. So he's at like 70, 80% alt. Or he might be at like 60% alt because I noticed he wasn't really doing a whole lot. You got to pay attention to like something like that. Now, position wise, constantly be playing cover. You actually played that pretty well. There's a few times you kind of walked out in the open, but I mean, you had the right idea. But dynamites as well. Once again, I already told you what to do with dynamites. Constantly be thinking about dynamites. I don't even think it's going to cost you a game if you're constantly trying to get into a good habit of throwing your dynamites, because I think you can only go up from here. So even if you start just randomly throwing your dynamites, you're not really shooting as much, which you also need to be shooting a lot. Like, you need to be focusing on what you're doing a lot. Like, your mind needs to be reset like every 2 seconds and be like, what am I doing? What do I need to do? Do I have my dynamite? Do I need to throw my dynamite? You should be thinking about that like every second. And then sooner or later it'll get into like a really good habit. But the hardest thing to do is to think about it first, as well as if you're new to first person shooters, which I don't know if you are or not, but a good way to hit and connect a lot of your shots is to be looking at the player and not your crosshair. Just like a simple little tip. It can give you like a little bit more of a better accuracy. You could just be trying to find out your sense on this game as well. There's plenty of as well. There is plenty of modes that you can use to aim train. For example, like PK P51 KK is the one that I always use, and then Cave 5 as well, but not with like a C, with a K. Those are the two that I use. If I remember, I'll try to type it down in the comment section or in the description. But yeah, those are the two training codes that I used, and my aim became very, very good. Yeah. Anyway, though, hope this video helped you out, and I'll see you later.